So,
Wow.
so we have Brook Waters' Curse, right? Volume 1 and 2. You know, usually, typically, a lot of the interviews that I've conducted actually have been, I want to say it's lit, right? And we want to be so broad with it in a sense, but to see, I would say like a man of color, a man of color that has took, I mean, vampires, man. I really don't even like vampires, but I don't even like to get into the books. Mm-hmm. But the fact that you've incorporated history, you took it back. I mean, when you talk history in my behalf, it's just an awe. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I think that it's a blessing that you've incorporated history in, so that you dropping some gems, also creating just another world in itself, in a sense. So I was in awe. I was glued to it. As soon as she told me, Lox told me, I said, "Oh, I want in." Read the review, and I haven't read the books as of yet.
Mm-hmm. Well, you did just find out.
How about that?
Well,
I love it. So we get ready to get into something crazy, something beautiful. Like I said, my favorite word, something nutritional. Lots. Talk to them.
So, Steven Van Patten.
Yes.
It's so nice to meet you finally.
I know.
Oh,
We've
my
been
God.
talking to each other over the internet.
On the internet, back and
longer,
forth, Facebook.
I know.
It's been a while. So this has been a long time coming. So, I got to hold these books because I got to feel the vibes here. So, Brook Waters' Curse, 1 and 2.
Yes.
What genre do you really categorize this? Before we go on, Brook Waters' Curse is about an African-American vampire born in
the 1860s.
18th centuries. And I'm going to let Steven tell you a little bit more about the book. Tell us a little bit more.
Well, like you said, the main character is an 1860s Georgia plantation slave. He becomes a vampire. Mm-hmm. And what he experiences as a vampire, I mean, anybody that delves into this genre in terms of being an author, they play, they take certain liberties with the mythos to just kind of make things work for them. So I've changed certain things about what actually kills a vampire, mm-hmm. what affects a vampire's life, and what a vampire actually goes through, mm-hmm. In conjunction with other vampires and other monsters. I took some liberties with that. But in the sense of the backdrop, what I decided to do was because first of all, I specifically went with this kind of character because I've always been a fan of horror movies, sci-fi, and all that stuff. Since I was a small child, but at the same time, I was never always very happy with how people of color were treated within the genre. It was always my favorite thing because it's imaginative and it just, takes me to other places where I don't have to deal with, real life and my BS, But, at the same time, then I walk away and I'm like, dude was dead before the credits rolled.
We get in that, huh? We get in that.
Or sometimes the only female is a hoochie, and it just kind of left me cold in that sense. So I said, you know what, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to do it the way I would want to do it, where it's not all just, Europeans in capes, mm-hmm. and it's all just kind of relegated to that. I was going to broaden it. I made it, the main character is an African American,
right.
But I also brought in Asians in a very positive light. I brought in a Puerto Rican family that remains human,
yes,
but are very, very tight with my vampire character.
Right.
I brought in, because my thing is, I grew up in New York. Mm-hmm. In New York, you don't just have one, and everybody doesn't look the same in New York. Mm-hmm. You can barely tell who's who in New York. So it's like I come from a multicolor universe. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to write a multicolor universe, whether it's about vampires or not.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why all this other stuff is incorporated.
So on the fact that your heart was just in the a realm of just liking horror, right? Mm-hmm. Did you set out to say, you know what? Okay, within time, I like to write. Did you set out to say, I want to write a book? I want to write a book. Like, what put you in this mode?
Originally, it was going to be a screenplay, and I kept getting stuck on certain little things within trying to make it a screenplay. So one night, and this was years ago, I just decided, you know what, I'm just going to knock it out like this. I'm just going to tell the story flat out. and just kind of see how it develops. With the first book, with all the historical stuff that I threw in there, that took a long time just to kind of research and get things through.
Right.
Because as I'm sitting there and as I'm working in the middle of the night trying to put it all together, it's like I would find myself getting ready to reference something, and then I have to say to myself, hey, wait a minute, were blue jeans even invented yet?
Right.
But you did a lot of traveling.
And I did a lot of traveling.
And did you do it specifically for the story?
Absolutely.
Oh, you did. You did it to get everything on point.
Believe me, there was no other way. There's no other reason for me to go to Africa by myself.
Yeah. Because I know you went to a lot of travel. I know you went to Africa, and a lot of it is incorporated in the book. If you guys read the story, you'll see it's the vampire Christian Brookwater. He's everywhere. He's been everywhere. And, I know that you travel, so I didn't know if you travel just for the story or, you're like a traveling man, you just like doing that.
No, I honestly, by the time I got back from Osaka, I was ready to stay home.
So really, you
sell my luggage. I was done, because I got to tell you, these long-ass flights and just craziness. But definitely the thing is, I was passionate about doing it right, and I'm so happy, even though the trips themselves were difficult for a variety of reasons that will not have nothing to do with vampires or books or anything like that.
Right.
I mean, going to Senegal, in essence, by yourself. I wasn't really by myself, but I was when you're there and you're the only person that, like no one's there that you've known for a long period of time.
Right. Yeah,
the people I was traveling with, I literally met them at the airport.
So you were literally there by yourself.
Yeah. I mean, this is the story. I knew I wanted to go. I'm not rich by any means. So, researching out, well, how much is this going to cost? And this and the other thing, enormous amounts of money. So it's just like, okay, seriously, I might pull this off.
But before the story, right? So did you begin to write some of the book before the trips, or did you say, you know what? If I wrote some of the book, let me go down there really more.
I can answer the question.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm about 2/3 through writing the first book. And it's one of those nights that, I literally stayed up till the crack of dawn, and I'm typing away and whatever. And I literally wrote something that I got to the part where the main characters are forced to go to Africa.
Okay.
And then I'm going to, and now I'm exhausted. I'm bleary-eyed. But I feel good.
Right.
Because that's hot. Now everybody's got to go to Africa.
Yeah.
I put the computer down, go to bed, I lay down, and just as I'm about to fall asleep, I hear a little voice in the back of my head that says, hey, dumbass, you've never been to Africa. What are you doing?
Right.
And I'm like, oh. So, and then, of course, I had friends that were like, well, dude, man, just take him to Jamaica. What's the problem? What's the problem,
All
son?
the extra stuff, right? Let's get it going. Nobody ain't going to hear the story after the fact.
Yeah.
So, but I couldn't do it. I literally couldn't do it. It's like, no, Africa feels right.
Yep.
Right.
So
that's right.
And it's one of those things where you hear authors all the time talking about how sometimes the story writes itself. Yeah, the story refused to go anywhere else other than Africa. So
wow.
I couldn't do it.
Wow.
Now, did you have any formal training, or to write? I mean, you go to school for that?
College and a few seminars.
And you always liked
things
writing?
like that. And I always liked it. I always did really good in school. So
when people ask you, oh yeah, you're an author, what do you write? How do you categorize the genre? Do you just, when you say a vampire, what category is that in?
Well, for the most part, vampires always fall under horror. But admittedly, the way I wrote it, it might transcend into other things. I kind of let other people decide what they want to say it transcends to.
Okay.
And yes, there's a lot of historical reference.
That's what I, with me reading the book, and that's what I found, a lot of historical references, and that was great, and it wasn't horror, because when you say vampire, people think, ooh,
But,
it's
you know
definitely,
what? But
I didn't feel that way about it.
But when you read Anne Rice's stuff, it's against the New Orleans backdrop. Has nothing to do with black people.
Right.
In matter of fact, except for, and I think in the very beginning, with slaves getting killed and that kind of thing, that's really the only shout out we get.
Right.
As much as black folks were sweating Anne Rice for a hot minute.
Yeah, man, you couldn't have said it no better.
Okay, so, I take that to the point where it's like, all right, well, again, and looking at Stephen King too, where his stories are great, and he's actually, he actually manages to incorporate people of color and people, stuff like that. Even more so than Hollywood allows him in some of the translations when his stuff actually gets to print. Gets to the studio and stuff. But the thing is, for the most part, Stephen King's backdrops are all about Maine. Anne Rice's stuff all happens in New Orleans for the most part. So,
that's true.
And it's like, and it's it's convenient for them. They don't have to go to Africa.
Right.
They don't have to go to Japan. Right.
Right.
So, it's like I definitely, when I did this, I definitely made it hard for myself in that respect. Because I could have easily.
It was calculated.
It was calculated, but then some of it was just gut instinct.
Okay.
If I, just be honest.
Yeah.
So
now, Steve. So now you write the book, right? Did you self-publish or?
Yes.
Now this is when it gets juicy, because now you put your heart in it. You travel, you spend some money, and a lot of times, people in their craft say, "No, I love it. I love the art of it, the craft of it." Some people don't invest but so much. Some people invest a wealth of different things, and when I say different things, I'm talking about the spirituality, the physical, everything, financially, everything comes into place. So it's obvious from hearing the story there was a wealth of things going on.
Well, that's the time investment also.
Right. So now you write the book. Your response. Give me your response. Like the consumers, how are they taking to it?
For the most part, it was. I gotta admit, things were a little mixed. And the thing is, this is what I learned is that when you hand somebody a book for them to try out, that's that's way different from, let's say, my man on the corner trying to get you to listen to his demo.
Right.
It's like, because it's a time investment.
Right.
Just like I invested a lot of time to write the stuff, someone who's going to check this out has to spend time reading it.
Right.
And the thing is, it's like I got hit, because with a lot of things, it's all about timing.
Right.
And had I written something like this, I think in the 70s, I'd be probably being canyonized in Grant's tomb or something right now, because I'd be old and dead. But I'm just saying. But writing it now, when my competition is so vast and so different, it's harder. It's harder. It's a harder sell. Not to mention the fact that, like you said, there's not too many of us that are delving in the horror genre. We're out there, but there's not that many of us.
Right.
And considering the fact that, I'm going up against the Street Lit Brothers, I'm going up against Christian, things, and with behind those genres, there's the mentality that supports both genres.
Right.
So I catch the thing that, like some people think this is an easy sell because of Twilight and all this other crap.
Yeah.
But the truth of the matter is, I mean, as multicultural as the stories are, their forefront target audience for me is African American.
Right.
But within the African American community, I've got brothers that basically take the mentality of, yo, this ain't about the streets, son.
Right, so,
it's not about the streets. I'm not.
Right.
Vampire thing. And then on the other side, I've got the church folk who are basically like, I mean, I've had people tell, like, first of all, I've had people look at me as if I were actually sprouting fangs and wearing a cape. Like, oh, what? Like frightened.
Yeah.
Like, dude, I just wrote a book.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's all right. It's okay.
Yeah.
I'm not going to show up at your house. Nobody's going to get hurt.
Right.
It's okay. It's all right. Just an overactive imagination.
Right.
That's all it is.
Yeah.
But you get, I mean, and I have very close, dear friends that are like, you need Jesus. And, you know, it's like...
But it's an experience, man. It's an experience that, you know what's incredible about it is that it's an experience that you take back and you laugh. You know, you say to yourself,
oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
oh, man, wow. I didn't know that it was just going to open up just a book of everything now. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
So, all right, so now, and the fact that because you're receiving all different types of responses, right? You know, people are saying this, they're doing this, you know, financially it might be a hard sell, whatever. What pushed you to say, you know what? F it, I'm gonna come with a book too.
Here's the thing. People that gave the first book a chance. Because the first book was hard, not just because of the research, not because of having to go to Africa and the whole thing, but the first book was hard because there was no feedback. For years, I'm putting off going out skirt chasing and go drinking, and I'm putting off all this stuff to sit in my apartment by myself and go night after night after night, drifting to work all half asleep because I've been up all night, night after night. You know, and when the first book dropped and people gave it a chance, because, you know, despite everything I just told you, some people did give the book a chance, and then that number grew and grew as word got out, and those people were all basically said the same thing, which was more or less, holy shit, I love this.
Right.
It was like, oh my God.
Right.
And, you know, and it was like, well, what are you going to do now?
Yeah.
Especially after I had left the first book in what can be categorized as a tremendous cliffhanger. So, and I knew that I wanted to continue, but of course I needed that little bit of extra validation.
Right, of course.
But I got it, and then considering that the second book, a lot of that happens in modern times, so now there's less historical stuff I have to do.
Makes it a little more easy.
And any historical stuff that I had to do for the second book, a lot of it I already knew now. It made it easier to launch into it. And then that just kind of became what it became.
So, when did you officially put the first book out?
The first book actually was dropped in, it was like very late 2005.
Wow.
So wow. And I got to this book, your book, I think late 08 or maybe early 09. I actually got to it. But when I first received the first one, you know, big box of books came to my house, and I pulled this one out, and I'm like, cover. And, you know, you shouldn't really judge a book by the cover. But I looked at it, and I was like, you know, let me call Sister Tia, because she likes this kind of stuff. You know, I read it. Vampires, I'm not into that. So I passed the book on to her. Was not happy with the cover, and then I was like, not just the cover, but the whole vampire thing. I read vampires. I put it off to her. So she calls me back a couple of weeks later, you know, Locksie, you have to read this one. I said, the vampire book? She goes, it is good. So, of course, get it back, start reading it. Still wasn't happy about the cover. And I know you kind of got a little flack. Did you get any flack about the cover?
I got some flack.
Yeah.
I got some flack.
Yeah. So when I got it back and I really read the historical part, I was like, wow, 9/11 was in there, slavery, everything. It was like, and then this Christian Brook, he's a werewolf. He's a vampire, but he's got a good personality. He's got a personality you can relate to, and I like that about him. You know, and he even has a wife and whatnot, and even though it's a lot of fighting with the werewolves and how do you pronounce the other set of monsters?
Rakshasas.
Rakshasas. Yeah, I didn't know anything about that, so I had to look up. It made me even research.
So
what is
Rakshasas.
a Rakshasas? What is that? I went on the internet and researched that. So I like this because it made me think.
Right.
And I learned a lot more.
Which is good.
Reading it. But the second book is great, humor. Stephen incorporated humor, and I love that about it.
Are you planning to follow up with a third, or you just?
I am planning the third, absolutely. But it's funny, and I've been telling everybody this because
we've been looking. We're looking for a third. What's up?
Yeah, the thing is, and you can look at the second book and see how big it is. The second book took a lot out of me.
Right. Yeah. How long that took?
The second book took about 3.5 years.
Wow.
Second book took 3.5. First one took 7. But honestly, this one took a lot out of me because there's a lot of emotional stuff in the second book also.
Big time, yeah.
And I'm not gonna,
You don't want to tell the story.
Get into too many. I'm gonna give away too many details.
Tell the story,
but let's just say there's a couple of there's a couple of heartbreaker moments I think in the second book.
Oh yeah.
A couple of really shocking sort of
And me and you, we're going to meet with my book club, and we're going to get into all of that.
Yes.
Because we've all read the book, and we want to really get into Christian Brookwater and the minds. Because he's a little sarcastic, this vampire. He's lovable, but he's a little sarcastic. He's got jokes. Let's put it that way. I like that.
Wow.
Yeah. So are you reaching out to other book clubs and things like that?
I've been reaching out to other book clubs. ARC, of course, will remain my
number one.
my favorite.
I love it, y'all. Locksie opened up a lot. We all opened up a lot. We gotta love it. I appreciate you, brother.
Appreciate you.
I appreciate you. I'll be anticipating reading these books, and I'll get into them immediately. In closing, this is what book bandits do. We bring a world of different genres of writers and authors, and we're gonna stick with Locksie right now. You dig what I'm saying? In our book club, because I don't even want to hear her mouth after the fact. So we're gonna keep it real simple. How about that, y'all? I'm gone.
Stop.
I'm gone. We're gonna keep that on camera too. Don't edit that, Ella. Don't even edit that.